speaking with Danielle Buntyon. She's the owner and operator of Jades Elevation. Thank you so much, Danielle, for speaking with us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So tell us, how did you first find cannabis or how did you first make your way into the hemp industry?
So, me and cannabis have been very cool friends since the age of 12. I have kind of just dibbled with it. Having older siblings, they kind of just brought it in a little early. And then as I kind of went further with the family, they moved out to California around 2000. So they were kind of there in the early medicinal stages. And then as I became older, finished college, um, I just was in a transition and I was located in Houston, but I kept like really wanting to be in the cannabis industry. So I was just really trying to debate on going out to California or staying down south because I'm a single parent. So I didn't want to like go too far away from my child's father because we co-parent. So it was just kind of the balance, and I would go and talk to so many lawyers, and they were like, "Why don't you do hemp? It is very easy." But of course, they kind of blew it off. But they were like, "It's agriculture," and it was just to me. Once I found a school here in Tennessee that they literally based their agricultural department around the study of hemp. So once that happened, about 2016 here, they opened up the agricultural program, and then in 2018 they opened up the processors program. So that's when I kind of was like, I want to learn more about it, but just trying to find the niche. So I jumped in it. They opened that license up, and then a year later I applied for the grower's license. So 2018 was really kind of my eye-opening entry into the hemp industry.
And what was that process like going through the applications? I mean, dealing with attorneys, we can only imagine that it's a headache. What was your experience like there?
It was a headache, but it was also a blessing. So in the hemp industry, they did not have as strenuous barriers of entry. So basically, you apply, you had to have land, or you had to have someone give you permission to use their land. So in Virginia, my dad stays in Virginia and my mom stays in Memphis. So they allowed me to get licenses under their property. So that was my first just kind of battle with it, but also learning every year something changes about your educational program. So every year we had to reapply, giving them different studies that we would go under. So the first one was just like, hey, I want to learn how to extract. And then the next year I applied to study domestic crosses of plants. And then the following year they kind of did away with you having to put a specific study on it and just allow kind of everybody to enter.
And you mentioned specific crosses. So, is there in the hemp industry, we know with THC strains that there's so many different types out there, there's hybrids. Is it the same with hemp? Are there different strains? What do you grow specifically?
So when we first started, a lot of times you would get your seeds from Europe or across seas, and then they would ship it into Tennessee and they would distribute it to you. Then the following year, they went away with finding our seeds, and they allowed us to kind of go throughout the country and see what we could bring. So my kind of reach was Colorado. I got some seeds from Oregon, California, and all of those were hemp kind of crosses. So as we've explored crossing, a lot of times I found that if you get the seeds from Europe, they're very advanced with having very, very low THC. But the problem was they didn't always have the highest CBD content. So as I studied and went forward, it was basically they did a lot of seeds for fiber, and as we began to cross them out, they basically just crossed them with cannabis seeds, domestic cannabis seeds. So you will see a lot now of the old loves that we had in cannabis being crossed now for CBD. So this year, one of my most exciting ones was my first cannabis experience. I'm going to do a White Widow CBD. So it's just really kind of understanding, like, it was, I mean, when I first heard of White Widow, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So for me to be able to bring the experience to CBD, and being able to cross out kind of that super heady high that it gives you, and just letting people kind of experience the lower one is what we're looking into. So most of the time, it's now in 2021, we're finding a lot of our strains that we love in high THC being kind of crossed out of all the THC that they have.
And you mentioned, European seeds they were more prone to having a lower CBD content. What about the testing process? After you manufacture your hemp, where do you send it off to get tested? What's your COAs like? Talk a little bit about that.
So it was so fun starting off being a processor and learning how to read a COA. So my very first experience, I got my concentrates tested from Proverti Labs, and then I found out that I made weed most of the time. So it was very interesting that the plant that I had a very low THC, but when you processed it down, it then turned into THC. So that was very much a learning process when you take your test and send it off a third party testing. Now, this kind of within this realm, I go to New Bloom. New Bloom Labs is here out of Chattanooga. They do really good and fast turnaround. So we do the potency, the terpenes, the different things like that. But I really like looking at the COA to pull out the profiles of the plants. So we do a water-based extraction, and it really replicates exactly what the seed has. So it's really good going through seeing how you can make each section light up on your test. So that's kind of one of my biggest things, is really giving people full profile cannabinoids and really breaking down and trying to light up the full COA. So when I see a COA that has one thing on it, I'm like, they didn't work hard enough to get it all. So it was really kind of learning from COAs and the chemists that really kind of helped me dig deeper in the processing to pull every kind of thing out of the cannabis plant, and also learning THC remediation. So in CBD or hemp, even though you extract it, you're always going to extract it to usually over a 1% THC level. You would then have to go back in and remediate it down to the legal zero point 0.3 level. So it's always kind of a process, and testing is always done several times throughout. So that's kind of one of our big budget lines, that because we do so much by hand, we have to send off the small batches more versus really trying to just do a whole big batch and then send it in. So we do several small batch testings, and we test a lot throughout the process because we'll use our extract to make different things.
Wow, it is quite a process. Have you had a mentor during this time? How did you learn? Because a lot of people come into cannabis and they don't know, where to start. How did you learn?
I actually took classes. I went to Tennessee State University, and they have what's called a New Farmers Academy. They had the dean. He was so passionate about what cannabis could do. So I studied about a year and a half at TSU, going to their farm days, studying on their farm. So they literally have a crop of hemp in the middle of Nashville. And it was very kind of eye-opening because nobody knew that. And it was like, you pass it all the time. But those professors were so good. And they also just really taught me about the grant writing process, the agribusiness process, and just really getting really down deep into knowing how to run the business itself. And for processing, I went to Ganja Talk University and learned how to do solventless processing through that program. So it was about a 3.5-month program with Bubble Man, and it's called the Solventless Extraction course, and Ganja Talks University. And he really did step by steps of showing you like how to really extract, how to dry, how to cure, how to pretty much do everything from washing hash, pressing, rosin pressing to dry sifting.
There are a lot of new hash techniques out there, that have come up over the years. It used to just be ice water hash,
Right.
and then it got much more elaborate from there. So,
Yes, I use the resonator now. So I started off with the bubble machine. As our processing got more, we use the resonator. So it processes about 15 pounds at a time, and you can do a lot of different things with one machine. So I can make keef, I can wash, we can do trimming and different things like that. So really, kind of automating the process has helped us too.
and so where did the idea for Jade's Elevation come up? Did you always set out with the intention of starting a brand, or how did that come about?
Honestly, no, I did not start off really wanting a brand. It was really going to be a smoke shop. I was like, well, it's not legal down south. How can we really get into it and build an infrastructure in case it came here? Jade is my daughter. So I always felt like if you name things after what you're passionate about, you can never fail. So I'm very passionate about my daughter, and I'm very passionate about cannabis. So I really wanted just everybody to understand like the elevation that you get from it. So I kind of just looked up the different things of Jade and really found like in certain parts they call cannabis Jade because of the green content and all of that. So I was like, it just kind of flowed together. My daughter and elevation kind of went together, and I was like, if you name it that, you really can't fail. So
Awesome. And so we've got this mother daughter duo working this amazing hemp brand in the space. What is it like being a woman in cannabis, let alone, a minority founded business? Talk about, coming into the industry. Have you experienced any pushback? What has that journey been like for you personally?
um I have not actually received a lot of pushback. I am going to say I have seen where when I first got in, I was in love with cannabis because there were so many women. It was very much everywhere I saw, it was a woman who ran the business. It was a mother, it was a provider, it was somebody who I was like, she is phenomenal. And then I'm going to say, as we went a little more mainstream in the hemp industry, I've seen a lot more corporate entities come in and really kind of fade out the woman farmer. And as we kind of evolve, I've seen just where women, they're still leaders, but sometimes we don't have as much capital behind us to stand against the men who come in with tons of money. No matter I can even say sometimes I've seen women's products better than the larger corporations, but it's because it's a lot of times we don't have that particular or major funding behind us. And I just think like that should be more explored when we come to funding and putting women in the forefront, because I love the cannabis industry for being woman led, but a lot of times we do miss the funding aspect of it.
Absolutely. And, like you said, it's some of these corporate brands, they're mass produced. There will always be the Walmart of weed.
Mm. Yes.
But what about that craft beer? What about that craft hemp, that craft cannabis? Because your product line is amazing. And you've got different extracts, you've got tinctures, you've got it all. Talk about your product line and how you really came to develop each SKU.
So when we started off with four particular products. We started off with a tincture, we started off with a pain cream, bath salts, and a bath bomb. Now, as we expanded more into the smoking side or the concentrate side, it was just really what a lot of people asked. Man, my brother would sit here and just really put together different cannabinoids and test it out. So we've tested out CBG and CBC. We've tested out CBN and Delta 8, or we'll try different cannabinoids and put them together and base what our product is off of experiences we want them to have. So I have the Jaded Effect pre-roll, and that was a CBG, CBD, and now we've kind of included a Delta 8 to make it more of a uplifting, vibrant feeling. Then when we do our hash, we really want it to be a clean, and we do like a 73 to a 90 micron hash. And then the keef, my daughter just loved it because she always thought it was dust. So we added the keef, and my retailer really wanted us to do Fico. So I learned how to do Fico, and that has been really one of my products that amazed me because I didn't know a lot about the ethanol extractions. I just really knew that it was a stronger extraction than solventless. But a lot of my clients here, I mean, they rave and wait on me to bring it to the store. And it's kind of eye-opening because a lot of times the customers really, really help us formulate new products. So we really kind of listen to our customers, listen to the experiences that they want to have, and really kind of dig deep to develop products that people would like, and base it off of their personal preference.
So if you could walk us through a day in the life of Danielle, what is it like from, sunrise to sundown?
So I wake up every morning and I wake my lovely daughter up. So during quarantine, we have been homeschooled since March. So our kids have not went back to school. So it's kind of balancing out making products in the back, because we have a space in back. So we have three different sheds that we work in. We grow, we process, and then we kind of dry throughout. So I will work in the shed from about 10 to 2. And then I'll kind of break so I can feed her and all of that stuff. And then if it's not growing season, I get to relax from 3 to 5. But if it's growing season, depending on the time, we water, trim, feed, give nutrients, just go outside and overall check and make sure none of the bugs are on there. If we're growing inside, we make sure that we're giving nutrients or timing the lights. So, kind of running the gauntlet of everything depending on the time of the year.
Absolutely. I remember cultivating in California, which I did for a long, long time in Humboldt County. And it's amazing when you're out in the field all day, or you're trimming or you're pruning or whatever it is that you're doing, you're exhausted at the end of the day. You are tired when the sun
Yes,
comes down. I used to think about people in the olden days before electricity. You wake up when the sun's up, you work, you're exhausted, come like eight
sleep.
o'clock, you're out, you know.
Yes. And I'm always kind of sleep by 10. So it lets you know my daughter go to sleep at 8, I go to sleep at 10.
Nice. And so, I mean, one of the things I want to wrap this interview up with is the legal system. What are your thoughts on the future of cannabis, the future of hemp? I mean, we know that currently there are 40,000 people still sitting in prison for cannabis related offenses. Their cases should be reviewed every decade. A lot of them aren't. We're actively working to get prisoners out right now. So what are your thoughts on, this industry that's coming to the surface? There are still people that are victims of the war on drugs. What are your thoughts there?
Um, my biggest thought is just really wanting everybody to understand that legalization is needed overall. I was just speaking on this just last night. It is very nerve-wracking in the South. I'm a minority and I have a license. So I have a license to grow, license to process. But the problem is they can still stop me and take me to jail if they think what I'm carrying is marijuana. They don't have to ask me any questions. I can show them my license. I can show them my COA. I can show them anything. But if they don't believe me, or if I don't have anything that really, really proves that it's hemp, I can still go to jail. Here in Tennessee, where hemp is totally legal, as a minority, a lot of times that is used. And if they say you can't go to jail for it or if it's decriminalized, then they still use hemp or cannabis to tie other things to you. So the big thing for me is when we talk about legalization is all legalization. Everything to me should be the same because in some places where you have medical, like in Tennessee, we're surrounded by several states that have medical marijuana. But if I go to that state, I can't consume marijuana. And when they come here, they'll get arrested for having it. So it's really just the balance of laws to go across the whole country, and I feel like that would stop a lot of the inequality that we have, because you can't take me to jail for hemp or cannabis if the federal government tells you that it's legal. So to me, I just really think that once we really dive into why it really needs to be legal, we'll have a lot more restorations and reforms, because like I said, a lot of times it should be no reason that we're sitting in jail for a plant that you can grow and buy a seed from just really anywhere. And a lot of times, Black, Brown, Indigenous people are highly targeted for those minute things. And now, since it's become decriminalized, it's to me always used as another way to tack other things on to problems. So, just nationwide legalization really needs to be explored to really further help the war on drugs.
Exactly. And as you mentioned, BIPOC individuals are, they're 4 times, 4.5 times more likely to be arrested, even for seeds. I know people that have been arrested for seeds, and it's more of, we'll arrest you now, we'll figure it out later. And if we need to drop the charges, we'll do that $10,000 down the road.
Yes. Yes. And a lot of times you don't have the $10,000 to fight the charge. So now you're stuck with a charge that if you had the money to fight, it wouldn't even be a problem or a case.
Right. It's a cycle of oppression. It's a pay to play. Do you have the money to get out? Oh, no. Okay. Sit here for a few days and then we'll let you out eventually. But, you can't pay to play. So, what does social equity mean to you? We know the definition, but what does it mean to you? What does it look like? What does restorative justice look like?
Allowing people to really break away from if this is a black or white thing for me, giving everybody a equal opportunity, no matter what color you are, to have an opportunity to do what they love. Just really opening doors and not putting such a high barrier. Like we have a bill here, oh, they want medical marijuana, but it's $150,000 to even think about it. I'm a single mom. Would I ever be able to get into that industry? I would have to work extremely hard, but it's not something always seen as obtainable. So if we could just really understand, yes, you're going to make money off of it. You are. But how can the government, the people, the consumers benefit equally? It should not be one person making 18 kabillion dollars off of something another person is sitting in jail for life for. Equal in the playing field to me is what we really have to push for. And I think we're coming around to it, but really looking kind of deep into what the barriers we put into play.
I agree with you 100%. It almost seems strategic for the people at top to put barriers in, so us people down here can't get in. We can't help
Right.
ourselves. And it's obscene to think that, you arrest someone for cannabis, you give them a felony, then afterwards you're like, oh well, we recognize our wrong, we're going to move your application to the front of the line, but it's going to cost you $250,000 to get there. Who in their right mind just has, if I had $250,000 in my back pocket, maybe I wouldn't have gotten that felony, maybe I would have hired an attorney.
I would not have gotten that. I wouldn't have been out here.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think like if we really explore what you could do with it, because it's not always about consumption or getting elevated. It's a lot of things that we can do with this plant that, because they're shutting so many people out, I think they're also closing the door on more creativity with the plant. I mean, you can do so much. And I know so many people who are just simply creatives. And just to understand that, yes, you can create mentally with this plant, but you also can create textiles, clothes, biofuels, different things that we are really closing the door on by not opening it up.
Absolutely, absolutely. So tell us, where do you see Jade's Elevation in the next year? Where do you guys hope to be by the end of 2021? And where do you see yourself in 5 years?
So by the end of 2021, we're doing some new products and we're also expanding our line. So hopefully we will get all of the new branding rolled out and new product lines finished and solidified. And within the next 5 years, I want to be a cannabis company that operates on both ends, hemp and THC, providing kind of holistic and medical products for everyone throughout the whole kind of cannabis line. So I would love to have a THC line on top of our hemp line and be able to grow and produce cannabis, all cannabis. So within the next 5 years, we're really looking to enter into a couple of medical markets and also just really refine our hemp growing. So we're really going into the regenerative process and really sticking more to getting certified with our organic growing and our organic processing in the hemp world, because you can do that under the USDA and different things. So really kind of digging deep for that. And we're going to, of course, apply for more grants for infrastructure on the hemp side.
Well, I think you're on a great path. You're on the right path so far, and
Thank you.
I can't wait to see you guys in states like New York and California.
Yes,
I can't wait to try Jade's Elevation and to see you guys nationwide.
I cannot wait.
It's going to happen. Persistence is key. It's
Thank you.
about just keeping on the green path, the green brick road. So for people out there that want to find Jade's Elevation, maybe they want to, purchase your product, where can they go? What's your website? What's your social profiles?
Yes, you can go to jadeselevation.com, and on Instagram, we're Jades Elevation, and we also have a shop, so you can find us online. You can actually shop in our shop on Instagram. If you have any questions, please feel free to kind of slide in our DMs. We're always there to talk or help or anything. So it's just really getting to know us, and if you need anything, we're always welcoming any kind of questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been so great, Danielle. I've enjoyed speaking with you. Thank you so
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.